All right, so let's dive right into this.
BlackRock's third quarter 2024 earnings report.
Okay.
Fresh off the press.
Right.
We're talking trillions of dollars here. And
Yeah.
believe me, this isn't just about numbers in some far-off financial universe.
What BlackRock does impacts your financial future
Yeah,
more than you might think.
absolutely.
BlackRock's influence on the global market is,
Undeniable.
no kidding, this quarter alone.
Their assets under management, or AUM,
Right.
hit a record-breaking $11.5 trillion.
Wow.
That's a jump of $2.4 trillion in just a year. To put that into perspective,
We're talking about managing more money than the entire GDP
Right.
of most countries.
what's driving this incredible growth?
It's a clear signal, I think. Investor confidence.
People are putting their trust and their money in BlackRock, making them the go-to giant.
In asset management.
So it's like BlackRock is on this massive winning
Yeah,
streak.
you could say that.
Right.
They've seen a huge influx of new money this quarter, a staggering $221 billion. And here's the interesting part. It's not just one type of investor.
We're seeing everyone from individual investors
Right.
dipping their toes in the market
Okay.
to major institutions all choosing BlackRock.
They're ETFs.
Those exchange-traded funds that are like these baskets of investments
Right.
seem to be particularly popular.
Exactly. ETFs offer a way to invest in a diversified set of assets.
And their popularity suggests that investors are looking for simpler, more accessible ways to enter the market.
Whether they're seasoned pros or just starting out.
It's interesting, though, because BlackRock isn't just sticking to the...
Traditional stocks and bonds game. They're making some bold moves.
Especially with their recent acquisition of Global Infrastructure Partners,
Right.
or GIP.
The GIP acquisition is a major power play. BlackRock now controls a company that manages roughly $116 billion,
Wow.
primarily in infrastructure assets,
Okay.
but a sizable portion, $70 billion to be exact.
Is fee paying? We're talking bridges, tunnels, renewable energy projects?
The literal building blocks of the modern world.
Okay, so BlackRock is buying up bridges and wind farms.
It sounds like they're betting big on the future of infrastructure.
But why?
It's a strategic move.
Signaling BlackRock's confidence in a sector that's intrinsically linked to global growth.
Especially with the rise of, say, the digital economy and AI.
Yeah.
Think about all those data centers.
Yeah.
The power grids needed to keep them running.
That's where GIP comes in.
So they're not just managing money, they're investing in the very foundation of our future.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. And it's a long-term strategy that could have major payoffs.
It suggests that BlackRock is looking beyond traditional markets and positioning itself at the forefront of these emerging trends.
And speaking of looking ahead,
BlackRock's CEO, Lawrence Fink, sounds incredibly optimistic about the future,
he's painting a rosy picture indeed.
talking about ambitious strategies and unprecedented opportunities.
But behind the optimism, there's a deeper message BlackRock is. Actively shaping its future, not just riding the waves.
So it sounds like they're not just managing existing assets.
They're looking to define the future of global investment.
But what does this all mean for the average investor?
We'll unpack that right after this. So
Yeah.
we've established that BlackRock is making some serious moves.
In infrastructure, but it doesn't stop there.
They're also shaking things up in the world of private markets.
You're right, and this is where it gets particularly interesting. For the individual investor,
Yep.
as you know, private markets. Think private equity, real estate, even things like venture capital
Right.
have traditionally been the domain of large institutions and ultra-wealthy individuals.
Yeah.
BlackRock is aiming to change that.
So they're trying to make these
Exclusive investment clubs more accessible to the average person.
precisely.
They're developing what they call a model portfolio solution,
Okay.
essentially a way to bundle private market investments.
In a way that's more accessible and digestible for individual investors.
Okay.
Almost like an ETF for private equity.
So instead of needing millions to invest in a private company.
You could potentially get in the game with a much smaller amount.
Right.
That's a game changer for a lot of people.
It has the potential to be, but it's not without its challenges.
Oh.
Private markets are inherently less liquid than public markets.
Meaning it's harder to pull your money out quickly if you need to.
Yeah.
BlackRock will need to navigate those complexities carefully to create a product that works for both institutional investors.
And your everyday investor.
It's an ambitious goal, for sure.
But it aligns with their overall strategy, doesn't it?
To be the go-to source for all things investment, no matter who you are.
Or how much you have to invest.
Absolutely. And to achieve that, Data is key.
Okay.
Which brings us to another significant development. BlackRock's planned acquisition of Preqin.
Preqin.
I'll admit that one flew under my radar.
What's the significance there?
Preqin might not be a household name.
But in the world of finance, they're a big deal.
Okay.
They're a leading provider of data and intelligence on alternative investments.
Specifically private markets. Think of them like a Bloomberg.
Specifically for private equity, venture capital, real estate,
Okay.
even infrastructure.
So BlackRock is on a shopping spree.
Scooping up not just assets, but also the data and insights behind them.
Exactly.
Data is power, especially in the opaque world of private markets.
With Preqin under their belt, BlackRock gains a significant edge.
Okay.
They'll have access to a treasure trove of information about private market performance, emerging trends, key players.
Everything they need to make informed investment decisions.
In this increasingly important sector,
Sounds like they're building a financial superweapon.
the assets, the tech, the data, it's almost intimidating.
They're certainly consolidating their position as a financial powerhouse.
But it's important to remember that even giants can stumble.
Yeah.
BlackRock's success is not a foregone conclusion.
So what are some of the potential pitfalls they need to navigate?
What could trip them up?
Integration is a major hurdle,
Okay.
absorbing both GIP and Preqin to major players in their respective fields.
Is a massive undertaking.
Right.
It's not just about merging balance sheets.
It's about blending corporate cultures, systems, and investment approaches.
Right.
Any missteps along the way could slow their momentum.
It's like trying to merge two rivers while navigating rapids.
And then there's the inherent risk of their big bet on private markets.
What happens if that doesn't pan out as planned?
That's another key consideration.
Private markets are inherently different from public markets.
They can be more volatile, less transparent, and the time horizon for returns is much longer.
Right.
If the economy takes a downturn or if there's a shift in investor sentiment.
BlackRock's aggressive expansion into private markets could backfire.
So it's a calculated risk.
They're playing the long game, but there's no guarantee of a win.
What about their core businesses, though?
The bread and butter, so to speak.
How are those holding up in the face of all this expansion?
Their ETFs continue to be a reliable source of revenue.
As we discussed earlier.
Right.
And their technology platform, Aladdin, is still a major growth driver.
Okay.
But there are challenges on the horizon.
What kind of challenges?
Just give us the inside scoop.
Well, for one, the asset management landscape
Right.
is becoming increasingly competitive.
Right.
There are a lot of hungry players out there.
Some with innovative approaches to investing and technology.
Okay.
BlackRock can't afford to rest on its laurels.
They need to keep innovating to stay ahead of the curve.
That's true in any industry, but
Especially in the fast-paced world of finance.
it's adapt or get left behind.
Exactly.
And then there's the ever-evolving regulatory environment.
Okay.
Governments around the world are taking a closer look at the power and influence of large asset managers like BlackRock.
Any new regulations aimed at curbing their influence or increasing transparency?
Could impact their profitability and flexibility.
So it's a mixed bag. BlackRock is clearly in a position of strength.
But there are potential storm clouds gathering.
For our listener, the learner who's trying to make sense of it all,
What's the key takeaway from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that BlackRock's Q3 earnings report isn't just a snapshot of one company's performance.
Okay.
It's a window into a financial system that's undergoing a period of profound change.
It's like watching a financial thriller unfold in real time.
You've got high stakes, bold moves, and an uncertain future.
We're seeing a shift towards private markets.
A growing reliance on data and technology.
And a more competitive landscape than ever before.
Right.
BlackRock is at the forefront of these trends.
But they're not immune to the challenges that come with such rapid evolution.
And they're not just navigating these trends.
They're actively shaping them.
But as you said, it's not all smooth sailing.
They face headwinds just like any other company.
And how they navigate those challenges will be crucial to their continued success.
Precisely. Understanding these challenges.
And how BlackRock chooses to address them is essential for anyone looking to understand the complex world of finance.
Lustily in the years to come.
Speaking of challenges,
There's one more crucial aspect of this earnings report we need to unpack.
one that's particularly relevant in today's environment. We've talked about BlackRock's growth, their acquisitions, their foray into private markets.
Right.
But there's another layer to this story.
One that's impossible to ignore these days.
Yeah.
And that's their stance on ESG.
Environmental, social, and governance factors in investing.
It's a hot button issue, no doubt.
Right.
BlackRock has found themselves in the crosshairs of a debate that's become increasingly polarized.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have critics accusing them of pushing a woke agenda.
By integrating ESG considerations into their investment decisions.
Right.
On the other hand, some argue they're not doing nearly enough.
That their commitment to sustainability rings hollow.
It's a tough spot to be in.
And then the earnings report seems to reflect that.
Walking a tightrope between acknowledging the energy transition
Right.
and recognizing the critical role of traditional energy sources.
It sounds like they're trying to appease both sides.
It's a delicate balancing act.
They're under intense scrutiny from all sides.
Politicians, activists, even some of their own investors,
Right.
all watching their every move on this issue.
Yeah.
And it adds another layer of complexity to their already ambitious growth strategy.
It's like they're playing a high-stakes game of chess.
With ESG being the wild card, that could change the entire game.
So how do they navigate this?
Their report points to engagement as a key strategy.
Oh.
They're emphasizing dialogue and transparency,
Working with companies to improve their ESG performance.
rather than simply divesting from certain sectors.
So instead of just pulling money out of, say, fossil fuel companies,
Right.
they're trying to engage with them, maybe push them towards more sustainable practices.
Exactly. It's a more nuanced approach.
One that recognizes the complexity of the issue.
And the need for collaborative solutions.
Right.
Whether this approach will satisfy their critics on both sides of the aisle remains to be seen.
It's a bold move, no doubt.
So for our listener, the one who's trying to cut through the noise,
And understand the bigger picture. What's the key takeaway here?
the biggest takeaway is that BlackRock's future
And by extension, the future of global finance.
is inextricably linked to these broader societal debates.
Okay.
It's no longer enough to just chase profits,
Investors, especially those as influential as BlackRock.
are being called upon to address climate change.
Social inequality and corporate governance.
They're expected to be not just financial giants.
But also agents of change.
Precisely. And that's a tall order.
It requires a shift in mindset.
A willingness to collaborate and a commitment to finding solutions that address both financial and societal needs.
It's not something BlackRock can achieve alone.
It's a challenge for everyone, really.
But their actions, their decisions, have a ripple effect.
Right.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into BlackRock's third quarter earnings,
It's clear that this isn't just a story about one company's performance,
it's a glimpse into a financial landscape that's evolving rapidly.
where the lines between profit and purpose are becoming increasingly blurred.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This report raises more questions than it answers.
How will BlackRock balance its pursuit of profit with its growing responsibility to address these pressing global challenges?
How will its actions influence the behavior of other investors and corporations?
These are questions we'll be grappling with for years to come.
And those are the kinds of questions that are worth pondering.
So as you move through your day, your week,
Keep them in mind, because the decisions being made in boardrooms
well, in the halls of government, even in your own investment portfolio.
are all interconnected. We're all part of this evolving story.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive into BlackRock's third quarter 2024 earnings.
Until next time, keep asking the right questions.
And stay informed.